Welcome to another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week, I've got not one, but two great guitarists. Up first, formerly of the Black Crowes, it is Rich Robinson. We talk about his new album, Flux. And on the other side, it is Damon Johnson of Black Star Writers. His new album is called Echo. We also talk about working with Thin Lizzy and a lot more. We've got so much content. Let's just get it rolling. Let's get started. Here is the one, the only, Rich Robinson. We are speaking with guitarist Rich Robinson. The new album is Flux, released June 24th. Rich, great pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you. How you doing?
Well, not bad the third time out. So let's talk about this because I've been a Black Crowes fan for many years. I saw you open up for Aerosmith. I saw you on a bill with Warrant, Metallica, and Aerosmith. So a lot of history there. But let's talk about Flux. Does the title have any meaning in it? In sense, or is it a flux in your career, personal life, musically, or is it just a title?
I mean, yeah, it definitely has meaning, because I think everything should. You know what I'm saying? I just think that it's the responsibility of people who create things to really think about what they're creating and put in their creation something that means something. I kind of feel like most music today, is created by a committee for the purpose of selling. It's almost like the ad agencies that try to convince you to buy something that you don't need. I mean, a lot of popular, and when I say that, I mean popular music. A lot of popular music today seems so vapid and lacking in any authenticity and anything real, And music is really important to all of us as human beings. And the thing that I feel is the most important is the human quality of music. You know what I mean? It's not about computers sucking all the life out of music. What creates the uniqueness in the artists is their difference, is their humanity. Is that maybe they'll sing a little flat, maybe they'll sing a little sharp, maybe the drummer will pull back a little bit going into the verse, but speed up going into the chorus. Maybe it's the way that someone plays guitar that's totally unique, that no one else plays like that. Maybe it's the bass player playing these really cool things. And as this group of musicians collaborating in this world, you create a unique sound that people can connect with. And I think that nowadays, man, with computers and quantizing and all this stuff that all these tools that everyone has to use, that they use in the name of perfection or trying to perfect something, it sucks the uniqueness, it sucks the humanity out of this music. And so I think it's harder for people to really connect to it. I mean, I believe music is incredibly important to all of us. I mean, it's this thing, this ethereal thing that floats in the air. We can't see it, smell it, touch it, or taste it. And it just goes in our brain and it elicits such emotion. And it can elicit such ideas. And that's something that's owed a little more respect than, some sort of Gap ad or like someone just hitting a button and downloading a song and not really caring, And that's why I think that music is, especially like vinyl, is coming back. There's a bubbling or an underground like wave of people that are really starting to look at this world. They look at politicians and what politicians never do, or they never say, they never really do anything. They don't speak like human beings. They don't act like human beings. They look at our world as like media. People are turning away from TV because TV's become so bogged down with, with horse shit, and they look other places. They go to, they're finding things that are crafted well, like, these Netflix things or, these TV series that people are kind of getting into. Film, there's some underground film that's happening that's cool. Music, literature, all these things. I feel like there's a movement away from what's been shoved down our throats. And I think people are starting to really discern a pop song that's written by 14 writers, for the sole purpose of just like, selling something, versus someone who wrote a song about a real experience, a human experience. And so, the whole thing with the vinyl resurgence, there's a process to it. When people have a process to it, they respect it more. You get this large format thing that you can hold in your hand. There's a tactile response. You peel the plastic off. You open the gatefold. There's information in there. There's art in there. You pull out the album. It's something you have to walk over to your stereo and put it on your stereo. And then you have to listen vigilantly, because the side of a record is really short. And so you're there for the purpose of listening to that record. It's not background noise. You're not in an elevator. You're not in some sort of store being like bombarded by crappy music. This is what you choose to listen to. And then by seeing that, I think subconsciously we start realizing that music is far more of a collaborative effort. Someone built the studio that you record in. Someone built the recording console. Someone built the mics. Someone built the instruments. Someone built the amps. Someone, created all the effects that are in that building. Someone had to manufacture those CDs and albums, and someone had to do something. And I think when we even subconsciously realize how that kind of spreads out, then I kind of feel that people have more respect for it in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. Music in the last 20 years has become exceptionally sanitized. Everything is down to the, auto-tuned. And your career has never been that. Is that continuing on Flux, where if there was an auto-tune this or a little syncopated beat there, did you leave the mistakes in there, or did you actually go back and clean it up?
I don't consider them mistakes.
Right.
That's what makes it me. You know
right.
what I mean? So, we've always recorded that way. I've always recorded that way. We get into the studio, we make the records, we do what we do, and and nothing's perfect, but everything is unique to us, to me as an artist, and to us as a band, and that's what we do.
In terms of the live performance, though, have you ever in your career used any backing tracks or anything to enhance?
No.
Okay, you've
never.
been. And I commend you for that. That's what I love. I prefer a live album that has mistakes and some of the stuff that, like Kiss sells you, for example, which is piped in crowd noise. Speaking of going back and fixing things, you had to go back recently and fix the album Paper. Your vocal tracks were lost in the Sandy hurricane. Talk to me about that experience. Was there a sense of disappointment when that happened? Was there a sense of, I get a second chance of it? How do you approach recutting something that was captured in time?
Well, it was interesting because I'd always wanted to remix that record. I mixed it with my engineer at the time, and we didn't really know what we were doing. And I was never happy with the way that record sounded. And it was something I had always wanted to do. And I always kept those masters in my storage space. And then when Hurricane Sandy flooded the whole thing, those got ruined, A friend of mine was able to take most of the information off of it. But when everything showed up, there were no vocals on there. And we were looking everywhere for them, and we couldn't find them. So I was like, well, fuck it, I just have to re-sing these things. And so I looked at it like, I was excited to be able to remix it, None of the instrumentation was redone. It was just I was able to re-sing the whole thing. And after singing those songs for, 10 years or 11 years, and also tweak some of the lyrics that I never really liked. So I just looked at it like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to just do it the way I wanted to do it, or the way I want to do it right now where I am. And so we went in and, I re-sang the whole thing. I did it while I was making Flux. And it just turned out great. I was really thrilled with it.
Yeah, and it's a great project. Talk to me about writing for your voice. I mean, in the past with the Crows, you used to write with your brother's voice in mind. Do you write differently now going for your voice, or is it the same process for you?
It's the same process for me, although, my writing has changed over the years, just because my experience has changed over the years. But, not too much. And I kind of feel like I know where my voice is stronger. I know how to use it more now. which early on, when I first started, I didn't. I just kind of winged it, In the Crows, I never sang lead. Chris would tell me just sing the high part. I would sing backups, And ever since we were kids, that's all I did. And so it's a whole different thing to be able to just get up there and sing and carry it, And I have a lot more understanding about it now, and a lot more, and I have a lot of respect for it, Most people cut their teeth singing when they're 18 in a club playing to no one, So it's definitely different when you have like this band that was really successful and you're trying to do this on your own. But now, I feel really comfortable with it, and I feel like I understand where I'm coming from, vocally.
Was there trepidation though at first when you said, "Okay, my brother's not here. I got to go do this by myself and sing these myself," or was it like, "Hey"?
It wasn't something I wanted to do necessarily. I've always been really happy in my musical expression. That fulfills me, musically, especially back then. I was just like, this is my wheelhouse. This is what I do. And I put together a band for a brief moment called Hoover Brown, and this friend of mine, great singer, came in and sang, but it just didn't work out. And I had these songs, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And so it was cool. It was just, to me, it was great because it was a learning experience. I just learned how to do these things, and I went on tour, and I learned how to figure this out. And to me, I'm always excited to learn new things. And so it's been a constant, learning process since day one. Even the way I write songs, the way I play guitar, the way this happens, it's a really, what fuels me is the learning element of it.
Right, and of course that never ends. Speaking of learning, you're going to have to learn a few songs for this summer's tour. You're heading out with Bad Company.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. First of all, how do you decide that you want to do this, or they choose you? I'm obviously, you didn't audition, I would imagine.
No, I met Paul last November. I want to say maybe it was in November, December. We honored Jimmy Page for the Experience Music Project in Seattle. And, I flew out there, and it was me, and there was a really cool band that backed different artists that came in. Duff McKagan was playing bass. Kim from Soundgarden was there. Chris Novoselic from Nirvana, and Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains, and Alice's singer. William came in and sang, and then I had my friend John Hogg come in and sing. So we just got up there and played some songs for Jimmy, basically. Just played some cool Zeppelin songs and did this thing. And Paul was there doing some Firm songs, and I met him. He was a really sweet guy, and he asked me to come up and play on these Firm songs with him. I said, okay. It was cool. He liked the way I played, and when Mick couldn't do the tour, they just said, hey, would you be willing to come out and fill in for him for a couple of months? And I said, yeah, absolutely. It was really that simple, And so I learned the songs, and, I've been out now for like 3 weeks.
Right. And it's been a great experience, I would imagine.
It's fun. Yeah. To me, it's just no pressure, just a lot of fun. Just get up there, play those songs, not worry about it. It's not my thing. It's just like, I don't have to sing. I'm not directing the band. I'm just up there playing, filling in for Mick.
Yeah. So there you go. Let me ask, if I can, about the Black Crowes, because this was a band that opened up for Aerosmith back in, I guess, 88, was it? No, 90.
1990.
And that was the first I ever heard of you, and everybody said, Mitch, you got to go to the show. You can't miss the opening band. They're the next big thing. And I was blown away. So talk to me about that time and that tour and Shake Your Moneymaker in terms of an album and its importance for you in your career.
Well, no one expected it to do well. You know what I mean? Like, not that we expected it not to do well, but no one expected it to do as well as it did. I was 19. I was 17 when we started writing those songs. When I wrote She Talks to Angels, I was a teenager. And then as we started ramping up to make the record, you know, it took a few years. We didn't know She Talks to Angels was eventually going to be on the record, but that's just how it was. And so, you know, we just went in and made this album through, you know, a few different avenues that came our way. George Shikulius met us. You know, he wanted to sign us to A&M. A&M said no, so he took us to Deaf American, and finally we got to this place where we could make a record. And, you know, and it was really cool. In the meantime, we were doing demos with him, and he was really, you know, working with us and all these things. So we made this record. I remember being really proud of it at the time and thinking, wow, this is really good. Everyone thought that, but we didn't really know, you know. And then all of a sudden came out in March of 1990, and by December it had sold over 1 million copies. And then by the end of January, it was at 3 million. And we never knew, you know, it was just like, holy shit, you know. We had no idea. Aerosmith was our first opening arena tour. We opened for Aerosmith. It was the third sort of tour that we were on that record. But it was the first arena tour. Then we opened for Heart, and then Robert Plant, and then ZZ Top. And then we went to Europe and did the Monsters of Rock tour with AC/DC and Metallica as well. They were on that. And so, you know, it was funny because not AC/DC, but Metallica and all these bands were heavy metal bands like Warrant and Metallica. You know, our music was really far away from theirs. But it still went well, and we went out and did it. And, you know, Aerosmith was a rock and roll band. AC/DC was a rock and roll band. But you can kind of feel the climate that we came out in. It was just ruled by heavy metal, you know, big hair, kind of like goofy songs, you know, the Warrants of the world. And then that kind of, I think our record came out, really was the first thing that started pushing that away and opening the door for other bands to come through and play more real music, you know. And so, but it was cool, man. I mean, you know, that was a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah, it really was. And it's such a great album. Do you miss the Black Crowes at this point in your career? I mean, is it something that you sort of regret the way it ended, not being a farewell tour, not being, you know, a multi-platinum album? You sort of like a disagreement with your brother? I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, it's a shitty thing that happens. You know, at the end of the day, 25 years in, you can't ask for all the money. You know, I mean, that's just not the way to go about it. You know, we're all here, we're all touring, we're all leaving our families. You know, the Steve puts in as much work as we do. You know, the songs are ours, are Chris and I's. You know, I mean, lately he's been kind of out there telling people that he had to take my parts and turn them into songs. Well, that's absolutely untrue. I mean, you know, I wrote the music, he wrote the lyrics. That's how it was for, you know, the first basically 18 years. And then towards the end, he started writing a few songs. There's 2 or 3 of them that he wrote, and there's 2 or 3 that I wrote just by myself and him by himself. I mean, but the truth of the matter is that as time went on, his story grew bigger, and, you know, and I truly believe that he surrounded himself with people who don't tell him no. You know, they're like, oh yeah, that's great. Keep doing it. You know, oh yeah, you're the only reason anyone wants to come. Oh yeah, this, and this. And when that happens, you know, some things, you know, so I think an unrealistic view of things comes into play. I mean, to me, 25 years is something to celebrate. We should celebrate the fact that we're a band after 25 years and that people still care about our music, and that Steve's been our drummer the whole time, and he's just as important to what we do as Chris and I are, really. And you know, why now would you choose that? It just makes no sense. And then if that's the route, if you don't want to do this anymore, let's at least say goodbye. I mean, the fans, the people who work with the band, the people that work with the band, the fans, I mean, we all have a vested interest in this. Why wouldn't you just say, if you really couldn't stand being in this band, why wouldn't you just say, well, you know what, I don't like the way it's going, or I want more money, or whatever the hell it is, but let's at least do a string of shows to say goodbye, or let's do one more tour, call it quits, and be done with it. and let everyone kind of deal with that in their own way, whether it's grieving or just saying goodbye or whatever it is, but let everyone have that. And it didn't happen. And that's a shame. I mean, that's a huge body of work of mine, musically, that is really important to me. And I have nothing but respect for what we accomplished. And I have respect for Chris's talent, in the Black Crowes. He was very talented, great singer. And Steve is the Black Crowes drummer. I mean, there's no doubts about it, and Ed Harsh and everyone who played, and that music is really important to people. So I am bummed at how it ended, but I'm also happy to be able to go out. And also it wasn't my choice.
Right.
It was my choice to say, I don't think this is righteous. I don't think that we should behave this way as a band, taking all of Steve's money and asking more money from me. I don't think that's cool. And I won't go along with that, but really that was Chris's choice. And so, but that being said, I'm still making records that I'm happy with, and I'm still honoring where I came from and what I'm doing now.
Right.
And I'm honoring it the way that I know how, by making these records that I think are really good, and I'm really happy with them.
Yeah, and in fact, so let's just end on that, because we have 20 minutes on this. You have the recent re-releases of Paper, as we spoke about, Lamb of Blues, Through a Crooked Sun, and the Woodstock Sessions. Talk to me just about getting them all under the same roof, under Eagle Rock, and were they tweaked, other than Paper, were the other ones tweaked in any way, shape, or form?
Yes, I mean, so Paper we talked about.
Right.
All the other ones were, like Llama Blues was just an idea I had to make a little blues EP. I had some extra songs, and I'm like, I don't know if these fit on Crooked Sun, but let's make a little EP, something cool. So we went in, put one mic in a vocal booth, literally. Joe set up a tiny drum kit. I put one amp in and a guitar, and we recorded the whole record that way. I did overdub bass, and John Medeski came in and played some keyboards, and we added a few things, but the basics of that were just this. I really wanted just kind of a lo-fi, cool, EP. We only printed 1,000 of them, and that was going to be it. But people really liked them, And so when it came time to, the opportunity came up to kind of grab up all of these records that had been released on every record was on a different label, and it was always in between like a Crowes tour. And so I felt like, well, let's do it properly. Let's bring everything under one label. Let's re-release it and have some focus, because this is what I'm going to be doing now. And so it was a great opportunity. And one of the first things I wanted to do was put Llama Blues, remaster it and put it on vinyl. And that's what we did. And it's, I'm really happy with it. It sounds great. With Crooked Sun, we remastered it and added a few more records, a few more unreleased songs, live versions of songs that are on that record. And so, same thing with Woodstock Sessions, to finally have that record, which is really good record. I mean, really cool to get in there and just do that album. And so we resequenced it, remastered it, added some new songs on there as well. So no, we're, other than Paper was the only one I re-sang and remixed, but the other ones were all remastered with extra songs put on there. And some of them were resequenced, and it's just a cool thing to be able to do. And then just to, here, everything is, for me, just to have it under this one roof was really cool.
Yeah, it really is. And does that suggest that the deal with Eagle Rock is going to be for multiple albums? I mean, other than Flux, will there be a second, third, fourth, fifth album for them?
Well, possibly. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in the future, but hopefully, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to respect our time, so thank you. And I'll just say this as a fan, it would be nice if the Black Crowes could do one final thing before it's all said and done. It would be a shame to look back at 80 years old and go, we coulda, shoulda, woulda, but there you go.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, I'll encourage everybody to go out and buy Flux. It is quite an interesting album. I've had a chance to hear it, so there you go. Thank you, Rich. Great pleasure.
All right, thanks, man.
Cheers. And there you have it, folks, my interview with former Black Crowes guitarist Rich Robinson. The new album is Flux. I have had a chance to hear it, and it is definitely worth checking out. Let's head over to another guitarist that I absolutely love and adore. It is the one, the only Damon Johnson. His new album is Echo. He's currently on tour with Thin Lizzy. Without further ado, here is Damon Johnson. We are speaking with guitarist Damon Johnson. The new EP is Echo. And of course, Damon, we have spoken many times before, but it's always a pleasure to chit-chat because there's so much more for me to dissect in your life story.
Well, thank you, Mitch. The pleasure's always mine, man. It's always great to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so let's go, since we talked about Echo not too long ago, let's quickly go with an update. That album, Echo, which is phenomenal, by the way, was produced by Nick, and you'll have to correct me with the last name, but Rakulnizik?
No, you're pretty far off, bro. Technically, it is the correct pronunciation is Raskulinix.
Right,
Nick,
of course.
Raskulinix.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he did one of my favorite albums ever, which was Black Star Riders, The Killer Instinct. So talk to me about working with Nick, and what does he bring to a project, and what does he bring out of you when you sit down with Echo and, of course, Killer Instinct?
Well, Nick is, as you know, highly decorated, has made so many great records, and I think through those experiences, it has just really fine-tuned his instincts, man. The guy he never second-guesses arrangements, sounds, working on parts with the band, working on parts with just the rhythm section. I know Ricky Warwick, our singer, feels like, the Killer Instinct is the best vocal performance he's ever recorded in his whole career, and that's saying something, because Ricky's made a lot of records over the last few decades. Nick is a tremendous fan of all kinds of hard rock and all the subgenres underneath that, metal, blues rock, pop, rock, whatever, man. He loves it all, and he's really versed in all of that. So I was already familiar with Nick's resume. I was so excited that we had the opportunity to make that Black Star Riders album with him. So the fact that he and I both live in Nashville, kind of became friends, our families hang out together. It was after that, he brought it up to me about the idea of getting in the studio together. And he did the same thing with Echo, Mitch, that he did with the Killer Instinct. He took the songs, kind of turned the arrangements on their head, tried some different things. And he's just incredible, man. And, it's clearly why the guy works all the time. He's never without a significant project to work on.
Yeah, and of course, and for those who don't know Nick's pedigree, I mean, he's worked with Ghost, Foo Fighters, Evanescence, Rush, Mastodon, Stone Sour, the lightweights in the industry, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All those bands that nobody's ever heard of. No, but he does fantastic work. Now, so Echo is the album now. Are you, because it was just an EP, are you already ready with another five songs or another batch of songs? And would you ask Nick to handle them again?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
The reason being is that my kind of big picture vision was to record enough material to put out a proper full-length album, Mitch. And, it would only make sense, man, that I'd want to do that with Nick. And, again, we just have such a great relationship. And it's flattering, man, because the guy is a fan of my stuff as well. He's just too busy, to take on things that he's not really passionate about. So it made me feel great that he's so enthusiastic about the material, and we work well together. We work fast together as well. That's the other bonus. So that's definitely the plan is to get it. I've certainly got a batch of songs ready to go. It's just the challenge of the calendar that we're having to deal with right now.
Right, because you've got a lot of stuff coming up. You got the Thin Lizzy dates that start very soon, and then, of course, you've got Black Star Riders that are going to get back in the studio. I'll ask you a couple more questions just about Damon, though, just about you. The next EP, how do you see these? I mean, do you see them as a series of you're going to do 3, 4, 5, 6 EPs, each telling a different story? Or is it going to be, well, here are my first 5 rock songs, and here are my next 5 rock songs, and in a couple of years it'll be the next 5? Like, musically, stylistically, do you see them as being totally different, or are you going, okay, here, try different flavors?
That's a great question, Mitch. I think that's actually a viable idea to just do them in blocks of 5 and almost have a series of EPs. The thing that I feel like that makes my whole solo career unique is that there's already a fair amount of diversity even contained in the 5 songs that exist right now on Echo. And that's really something I'm proud of, and it's certainly kind of backed up by the various projects that I've been in since I started professionally in the music business. I've never really been a part of just one genre or certainly of one sound. So I guess I'm looking at the solo platform as a way to investigate all those different avenues. And it's kind of nice for me as a songwriter to never really have to go, oh, you know what, this song isn't right for me. I'll pitch this to somebody else. There's almost any direction I could go in and put it on a Damon Johnson solo album, if that makes sense.
Yes, of course. So let's get into some of the updates. Let's start off with Black Star Riders, one of my favorite new bands ever. I think we've established that over the years. Where are we in the process of new material, new album, choosing a producer, getting in there and actually saying, okay, let's lay down the licks here. Let's get this thing started.
Yeah, we've Ricky and I have already gotten about 12 to 15 very solid themes put together. The band hasn't had an opportunity yet to get in a room together and kind of flesh them out. I know that Ricky and Scott worked on 2 or 3 things when they were together back in March. And there's a few other things starting to float in. I know Robbie and Jimmy both have got some stuff that they sent to me just in the last couple of weeks. So we're very committed to investigating every idea and seeing what it can develop into, see what Ricky gets inspired about to put lyrics with. Because that's really the ultimate barometer for us is, Ricky's the lyric guy for this band, and he's always got tons of stuff. So it's really about him hearing a piece of music and going, oh, yeah, I have something for that, or I want to tell that story. As far as the producer, we're absolutely going back in with Nick at his place outside of Nashville. We had a great experience with him on the Killer Instinct. You've been incredibly flattering with your support of that album, Mitch, and we've gotten a lot of great reviews from all over the world for that record. We certainly love the sound of it, and we totally enjoyed working with him. So we're really excited that he's made time on his calendar to get us back in there into his place.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, I got to say, one of my favorite parts of that were the bonus songs on the deluxe edition, these acoustic versions. Do you think that you might do another, deluxe edition with bonus songs or acoustic songs, I should say? Or at some point, do you think that Black Star might actually just do a full acoustic album? Because you do it so well.
Well, thank you, brother. I think both of those are viable ideas. I'm not really sure what we're going to do. Nothing's been totally established about what the bonus versions will be on the 3rd album. We definitely got a lot of great response to the acoustic stuff. But the fact that we've got so much material, Mitch, I got to think, too, there's the real possibility that the bonus versions might simply be songs that didn't make the album. That's usually a decision that we make kind of when we're 3/4 through the entire process. I guess it's just going to depend, on what songs are making the A list, what's on the B list, and on how everybody's feeling at that point.
Right. Well, listen, either way, I'm looking forward to it. Now, the last time we spoke, these Thin Lizzy dates were, 3 months off or whatever. Now they're essentially a week away. Obviously, I'm assuming you've started rehearsals.
Well, everybody's been rehearsing via email. We haven't really had a chance to all get in the same room together. That's going to start in London a week from this past Saturday. So I guess, I get on a plane Thursday and we'll be in there thrashing away on Saturday.
Well, okay, because I was actually going to ask you what it was like to be in a room with Tom and Scott, but but we're not there yet. But okay, well then let me restate this then. Like we said 3 months ago, we talked about this, and it was in the distant future. How are you feeling now that this I'm going to be working with Tom Hamilton of Aerosmith is coming up in like a week?
Yeah, man. Everybody is a fan of Aerosmith, is certainly in our band, but no one to the degree that I am. I was an Aerosmith fan almost to the level that Ricky and I were Thin Lizzy fans, the same kind of influence. And I had a great experience in Brother Kane to actually tour with Aerosmith back in 1994. So I haven't really seen Tom since then. I think I saw a show back in the early 2000s and we might have said hello, but man, when you're in a room in a band with someone like that, of that caliber of playing, I tend to try to just do a lot of listening. I mean, certainly in this case, Tom's probably going to be looking to me and Scott to kind of at least help him get up to speed on all the songs. But the point is going to come when we can relax and just play. You can bet, man, I'm going to be pulling out some Aerosmith licks in rehearsal and getting, kind of baiting Tom to jump in and play along. I gotta imagine Scott Travis knows a few Aerosmith songs.
Yeah,
well.
I mean, who doesn't, right? And can you imagine like Ricky Warwick doing Sweet Emotion with you guys, backing him up, or something? I mean, that would just be.
Yeah, what's funny about that is that, I mean, Ricky absolutely would tell you that he has nothing but respect for Aerosmith. Growing up in Belfast, Northern Ireland, growing up a punk rock kid, it wasn't so much that Aerosmith was a real, that wasn't necessarily one of his bands that was on his turntable all the time like it was for you and I.
Right.
And probably
right.
a lot of other American musicians. Certainly, even the other Black Star Riders guys, Jimmy DeGrazzo and Bobby Crane, man, they worshiped Aerosmith like I did. So, but, we're just, more than anything, we're really flattered and grateful that Tom was available and that Tom had so much enthusiasm for being a part of this thing. Man, it's going to be incredible.
Right, and also that Tom happens to be one of the greatest bass players that rock has ever known. I mean, totally underrated. I mean, when you're playing behind Steven Tyler, who's a larger-than-life personality, you tend to get overshadowed, but his rhythm tracks or his bass lines are beyond reproach. I mean, it's,
I agree with you 100%. He's so musical. His instincts are impeccable. And if you know anything about the history of Aerosmith, as I'm sure you do, Steven was pretty hard, has always been really hard on Joey Kramer because Steven is a drummer himself.
Right.
So when you're the songwriter, you're hearing the entire thing fully produced in your head. He's really been rough on Joey, and I get a sense that for the most part, Tom has brought so much musicality to the table that more often than not, he's kind of been spared the ultra critique that some of the other guys have gotten. You just know, man, the guy comes up with great stuff in the rehearsal room and in the studio. Yeah. So I can't wait, man. I cannot wait.
Absolutely classic. Now, let me ask you about you personally. You've done Brother Kane, you've done Alice Cooper, Black Star Riders, you've written with Stevie Nicks and Ted Nugent, and you've been on, as we talked about last time, Sammy Hagar's album, and Faith Hill, and John Waite, and all these. Talk to me about being a working musician, because, a lot of folks think, well, you made a Brother Kane album, and you're a millionaire, and you can retire, and you don't have to do anything else, and, right, we know that's not true. Talk to me about, the positive sides of being a working musician, but also some of the things that maybe fans don't think about, and why you need to go have this band and that band and get around.
Well, I guess where I'm at this point in my career, everything about being a full-time musician is positive, and it's certainly been positive for me for quite some time. It's very easy for me to remember the early 2000s, right after Brother Kane had disbanded, that I did give some thought to the possibility that, hey, maybe that was it for me. Maybe my career is over, and music is just something I'm going to do for fun. Maybe I'll go back to school, I'll take another career path, and I'll just do music for fun. and play on the weekends or whatever. And circumstances just kind of brought me back into it full time. But I guess for any of us, I mean, even guys far more successful than me, I think they're always open to the idea of collaborating with other people, maybe producing, certainly co-writing. I mean, my wife and I were huge fans of that new Beyonce record that's got that killer Jack White song on it. Anytime you can cross paths with another talent that wants to work with you, it's an honor, and you always learn a lot. And who knows, man, maybe along the way you can make some revenue to feed your family with. I just think I always go at every day, every week with like, okay, what's on the calendar, what's coming up, what's cooking, and try to be available. And at the same time, be grateful that I'm in an amazing band like Black Star Writers that works a fair amount. It's not a big enough band to work year-round full-time, but certainly enough to keep our creative juices flowing and scratch that itch, and tour and build our fan base.
Were there times that were exceptionally rough where you just didn't realize or didn't know, how am I going to pay the rent this month, or how am I going to put food on I mean, did things ever get that drastic for you?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And I'm sure it's the same for a lot of other musicians that are on the outside, that are on the outside full-time professionals. I mean, it's, you were gracious to read all those things off my resume, Mitch. I mean, to anyone seeing that, they're like, oh yeah, well, this guy does have a couple of houses and a trust fund and he's all set. And it's just not the case, man, So there's been some points in the past where, I'm looking under the bed at a couple of my favorite guitars and going, well, if I sell this one, we can pay the rent for a couple of months and, and keep the phone turned on. Right. I'm grateful that it hasn't been that way for a while, but I think there's always, I don't want to say that fear, but there's certainly that respect of reality that, it can certainly get to that point, man, if you don't stay busy and stay productive.
Does that crop or come back up as you get older, where you start thinking, am I still going to be relevant? Because a lot of the pop stars or where there's background musicians, they want the young look and they want the young. Does that start creeping in like, I'm starting to get too old and people are just not going to look at me? Or is that just, you don't even think about that?
That's another great question, Mitch. And I feel so proud and fortunate that I'm at a place in my career now where I don't really care about relevance anymore. I feel like for the relationships I've nurtured in the business, for the people that know who I am and know what I'm capable of, I want to feel like that the quality of my work has been of such that, the phone is at least at some point going to ring sooner or later. Somebody's going to need somebody to play live. Somebody's going to need somebody in the studio, maybe go out and do a run of dates with some, I don't know, like an all-star band. Who knows? There's always things that pop up. And if nothing else pops up, man, I'll get that acoustic guitar and go out and book a bunch of dates. And, man, if I can play in front of 40 or 50 people 4 or 5 nights a week, it's not a bad living. So, my dad was just always encouraging me with this phrase, Damon, you got to develop your skills. Get as many skills as possible because you never know which one of those is going to, as we said, pay the bills that month.
Yeah. And
sometimes it's my singing, sometimes it's my guitar playing, sometimes it's my songwriting. So, he was right. And that's really the best advice I would have for any musician, is to develop as many skills as possible.
And I'll end with this question, because after Brother Kane's Wish Pool album in '98, you sort of bounced around. There was the solo album, and there was the Faith Hill, and there was the John Waite, but there wasn't sort of a steady gig, or at least not that I can see. How important was it for you to get that Alice Cooper gig? Because that sort of put you on a steady touring cycle for a few years. How much did that affect and change your life, and you just got to go, thank you, Alice, because it meant a lot.
Mitch, it was a game changer for me.
Right.
And the further away I get from it, the more currency it has, the more I just go, wow, that was an even bigger moment for me than I realized at the time. I had just recently remarried a couple of years before. We had a baby, literally born the week before I auditioned for Alice. And so I was kind of distracted. Maybe that's why I wasn't able to really quantify the importance of it. I knew it was going to be great. Obviously, the steady income was much needed, and you know, I was excited about that. But without question, I would have not been ready for an opportunity like Thin Lizzy had it not been for the time I spent with Alice. There's just no way. And you know, he's incredible. You know, every time I see him, I give him a big hug, and I go, "Coop, just got to say one more time, brother, thank you. You know, thanks for taking a chance on this skinny kid from Alabama that, you know, he wasn't really familiar with me or Brother Kane or any of that stuff, man. We were never certainly at his level, so he had to get some feedback from other people for me to even get the audition. So I was very fortunate, and I love that guy, and I love that experience, and we'll always be proud of that.
Yeah, it's a great experience. And do you think that without that gig, your future as a musician would not be what it is now? Do you think without that gig, you might have had to have gone and been a car mechanic in Alabama and just said, I tried, but I'm out of places to go now?
Well, I definitely think without that gig, you and I wouldn't be talking.
Right.
You know, I would not have gotten the call for Thin Lizzy, and I may not have had the confidence to make more, you know, fully produced electric solo records. You know, the other great thing about where I'm from, man, I mean, there's plenty of places to work in the South. You know, I've lived in Alabama most of my life. I'm in Nashville now, but, you know, I was even before when I got the call about Alice, I was playing a handful of John Waite dates. You know, he would do 30, 40 shows a year maximum. And then on the weekends, man, I'd go play cover tunes with my friends. And, you know, you can make a few bucks, have a few laughs, and, you know, talk about how cool you think you are, and when really you're not that cool.
Right, exactly. So, I mean,
you know,
in a sense, without Alice, there's no Thin Lizzy, and of course, without Thin Lizzy, there's no Black Star Riders, and so the history of music changes up from that point, I guess.
I would absolutely agree with that. And again, man, you're always so great to talk to, Mitch, because you spin things in such a unique way that it gets me thinking differently. I think you're completely accurate with that. Those opportunities would not have presented themselves.
Yeah, and I think I would have been worse off because I wouldn't have that great Killer Instinct album, which, you know, so honestly, right. It's all about me, right? It's all that's how I spinned it. It's all about me. That you joining Alice was all about making me happy. Well, I guess 10 years after, right? 2005.
Well,
did you join album? Was Alice?
I'm sorry?
Dirty Diamonds was 2005, but were you with Alice in 2004, I guess? Or 2003?
I joined at the end of 2004. They were wrapping up the touring behind The Eyes of Alice Cooper.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, he made that album with Eric Dover on guitar. And Eric is a longtime friend of mine, and Eric is really the guy that gets the ultimate gratitude, man, because he's the one that called me. He's the one that recommended me, you know, referenced me to Alice and his guys. And had it not been for Eric, I'd have never come to Alice. So I got to give him props as well.
Yeah, and there you go. So I'll have to drop him a note and say thank you too.
Do it, brother.
There you go.
Thank you, Eric Dover, for the Killer Instinct.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly, and changing that, and of course, we do need to figure out a way to get BSR over to North America to play a few, or at least Montreal. I mean, who cares if you play LA?
It's going to happen, my friend. I'm telling you. 2017 is the year, Mitch. You're going to see us, brother, and you're going to have VIP passes out the wazoo.
There you go.
The full book up, my friend. Can't wait to see you.
Looking forward to it. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and I guess we'll do this again in August, right? every couple of months, we'll get an update.
We're on about a 3-month schedule. I like it, Mitch. I like it very much.
I love it too. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And next time we'll dig deep into your John Waite and Whiskey Falls epic career.
I would love to, man. There's some great stories in there.
Fantastic.
I would love it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mitch. We'll talk very soon, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers.
And there you have it, folks. My interview with guitarist Damon Johnson. His new album is Echo. And I would like to thank also Rich Robinson for taking the time to speak with me. His album is Flux. Check them both out. Very, very worthy, especially if you are a fan of guitarists. With that, folks, check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon and on Facebook, one-on-one Mitch Lafon. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And, hey, there will be more. Keep coming back. Bye for now. Oh, my.